Welcome again to Joe's Stunner Boxing. I want to talk about Ben Shalom because he has received a lot of criticism, and certainly I've been very critical of him in certain videos about certain individual issues, and he's been written off as someone who's completely out of his depth with Sky, should probably never have been handed the key to the door. He's just... what is he, like 30 or something? He just hasn't got the experience. He hasn't got the nous. He hasn't got anyone to sort of put forth checks and balances, to sort of question his ideas, to guide him. All of these criticisms to me do hold water. But what I want to do is I want to just point out a few things that people are overlooking that suggest that although Ben Shalom may well be out of his depth, that is not to say that he doesn't have talent and he doesn't have ability. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, "Oh, what are you talking about?" But okay, well, let's just look at a couple of his fighters. Natasha Jonas, when she beat Michaela Mayer, regardless of whether the controversy of the decision and all that, we've been through that 100 times. Michaela Mayer said during a post-fight interview, "I want to thank Ben Shalom." She specifically mentioned Shalom as being someone who'd helped her, and her career at Matchroom wasn't going anywhere. She was out in the cold, and she was very, very complimentary of Shalom. She said he'd given her the opportunities. He got her chances which 2-3 years ago would have seemed beyond her, and of course she took those chances. So her career under Shalom, she's actually won 3 or 4 world titles. 4 world titles, I think. 3 at super welterweight and 1 at welterweight. And he has got her those chances. Now, another female fighter who's flourished under Shalom is Savannah Marshall. Because Shalom was the one that got Clarissa Shields over to Britain, and you know what happened there. It was a big build-up. It was cancelled because of Queen Elizabeth's death, and then it was rescheduled and so on and so forth. But it was it pushed, and it was an all-female card as well. So it was a big step forward for women's boxing. Savannah didn't win. So what happened? Well, in her next fight, she fought for another undisputed set of titles at super middleweight against Franchon Cruz-Dezurn and won. So again, Shalom has got one of his fighters' chances, and I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, "Oh, this is women's boxing," and you're going to talk about the dearth of talent and the fact that there's no, that fights are easy to make and so on because the best have to fight the best. There isn't that gene pool. All of that, I get it. Okay, let's talk about the men. Chris Billam-Smith, he went with Shalom, he went with Sky, and he ended up fighting Lawrence Okoli. It was a very sort of ugly fight. It certainly wasn't a very watchable fight. I found it really intriguing, a very sort of curious, like watching a road crash, because it's such an odd fight. Mauling and knockdowns and points taken off and horrendous, aesthetically horrendous, and yet there was a curiosity about it. Like I say, it was like watching... it's a bit comical, really, thinking back to it. But the point is that Chris Billam-Smith ended up with a world title, win the world title in front of his home crowd in Bournemouth. And yes, of course, signing Okoli looks like a completely bizarre disaster that Shalom has welcomed. I think it's a terrible mistake. But Chris Billam-Smith is now a star. He sells out. He can probably sell out the Bournemouth Stadium. Football stadium. He can probably, he's got Riakporhe coming up, another in-house fighter, Richard Riakporhe. Again, Richard Riakporhe. Okay, he got pulled out of the Jai Opetaia purse bid and decided to go for Billam-Smith, who, let's be honest, is an easier touch. But nevertheless, he's got an opportunity to fight for a world title. So you can't really say, well, Shalom hasn't got him, an opportunity. Billam-Smith is a world champ. Now Riakporhe's getting his shot. With the cruiserweights, Shalom hasn't done too badly, and let's be honest, let's say the Riakporhe and Billam-Smith fight, which is a rematch, let's say that that's an entertaining fight. who's to say another, like a rubber match, a third match, isn't can't sell. So they both get another payday, another big payday. So I wouldn't say it was all bad. Although the criticisms of Ben Shalom and Boxer and what's going on at Sky and so on, I've made many criticisms, but I wouldn't say it's all bad. I mean, if you want to go down the food chain a little bit to prospects, Adam Azim is he not? He's with Sky and he's with Shalom. I mean, he's a terrific talent. Even Joshua Boazzi, who, it was a very dull fight, his first fight on Sky, but he's fighting Dan Aziz. Now that's a pretty good matchup, and it got cancelled, which was not the fault of Sky and Shalom. It was just the fact that he got injured. Aziz, this is, but that's an interesting little domestic dust up that could lead to something. I mean, what I'm saying is, and I know again, some of the stadium fights have been boiled down to smaller venues, not stadium fights, but some of the bigger fights have been boiled down to smaller venues. At one point, Shalom seemed to be, the York Hall seemed to be his second home as far as his fighters were concerned. So I don't see it as being all bad. I think, here's my take on it, and you tell me if you agree, you disagree. I mean, I think Shalom has ability as a promoter, but I think the Sky contract came too soon for him. I think all the criticism about, being inexperienced and learning on the job, and it's too much to learn on the job when the stage is that big. I think the stage was just too big for Ben Shalom at that particular point. But he is a young man. What is he, 30, 31? When you get to a certain age, 30, you realise 30 is nothing. 30, when you're 20, you think, 30, that's getting old, isn't it? No, trust me, it isn't. You're still a kid when you're 30, pretty much. So I think that I'm not sure whether Shalom's going to get a second chance at Sky, but I don't think he's without ability. I don't think he's made, God knows he's made mistakes, but it hasn't all been bad. And I think people have overlooked. A lot of the fighters are speaking quite well of him. But, we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. I just think Sky was too big an arena for him, too big a platform, too soon. And he'd have been better off. I mean, I think a contract with Channel 5 would have been good for someone like Ben Shalom, because he could have tested the water and, put on some good fights. And now, of course, he wouldn't have been able to sign certain fighters without Sky's money. But that might have been a good thing, because he has not spent Sky's money particularly wisely. And again, we're back to a Coley, aren't we? Boazzi, I think the jury's still out on Boazzi. Doesn't look like a good move, but don't forget there's a court case pending as well with Matchroom over that. Sometimes you can have too much too young, too much too soon. And I think there was too much money flying around at Sky. I think if Shalom had gradually built his stable and his reputation slowly but surely, he could have got to a good place where by the time he hits 40, which is in roughly 9 or 10 years, he'll be established. But all this has come too soon for a man who probably has more talent than, although he's wet behind the gills and he's green, and he's got more talent than people are perhaps realising, I think. But anyway, you might say, well, you're talking a lot of crap, which is fair enough. So leave your comments below. If you agree with me, that's fine. Tell me why you don't agree with me. I ain't got a problem with you not agreeing with me. But have a think. Try and think objectively. It hasn't all been bad, I don't think, for Boxer and Ben Shalom. If you're new to the channel and you could subscribe, that would be fantastic. Hit the subscribe button and also hit the like button as well, because they count them, apparently. It's all to do with algorithms. I still ain't worked out what a fucking algorithm is, but anyway, who cares? All right, I'll catch you later. Looking forward to reading your comments, and bye for now.